all new. AM1150 WTMP.com.
Alrighty. It's that time again, and we got the house full. The elephants are here. We have a visitor who's not an elephant. I just want to make that point clear, so somebody won't accost him in the street, because he was on the show with us. But since he's my good friend, he decided he'd come. And like I'm telling somebody outside, we never talk politics. That way we don't have to worry about disagreeing. And how we make stuff happen in the community, we both agree on, so that's never an issue. So we want Tampa Bay to progress, move forward, and make things happen to make this community better. So I'm going to open the show. Then I'll introduce you. For many of you, it won't take any introduction at all, because y'all all already know him, or you should know him. And if you don't, after the day, make the effort, take the time, energy to learn who he is and what he stands for and what he means to this community, because he means a lot. So, after all that is said, the check will be in the mail later this week.
Absolutely. But hold it a little bit, okay, brother?
The check to be in the mail.
Just hold that check for just a little bit. What year is this?
So anyway, this is Porch Talk Radio for all you guys who are there and girls. We appreciate you listening to this show. And we have went through a lot of changes in the last month or so, because many of you may know, some of you may not know, I was in an accident. I totaled my truck, hurt myself. Don't talk a lot about that. And then a week later, my mom passed. So that was tragic, and we still trying to recover from that. And next Sunday, Mother's Day, will be the first Mother's Day of my life without my mom here, and haven't ever had to deal with that. So that's going to be a whole new experience, how we deal with that and how we get past that. But we will. So let me go ahead and open the show off. I don't want to get too serious, with you guys, because we want to have a fun show, informational show. And I've not given our guests the option to hang out for the whole hour, half an hour, however
You're
long.
on your own, brother. You know that.
However long he wants. So he got some stuff to say. So anyway, if you want to call in during the show, remember, this is a radio show. And if you call in, you will be on the show. If you call in, the call-in number is 813-251-9867. 813-251-9867. If you call that number within the next hour, expect to be on the show. So, if you want to talk to me off air, after the show, or sometime during the week, you got something serious you want to talk about, and a lot of you guys do, and girls, so the opportunity is there. I'm a public servant. I'm not elected, but I'm still a public servant. So my cell phone number, Eddie Adams Jr. cell phone number is 81312. Email, if you want to email me, Eddie, EDDIE, at porchtalkradio.com. porchtalkradio.com. So, with all that being said, and with the big lineup and the big intro and everything, without further ado, this session of Porch Talk Radio is now in process. Our guest today is probably the most networked individual in Tampa. I'm going to say Tampa Bay, but definitely in Tampa. It is City Councilman Orlando Gudes. Welcome to Porch Talk Radio, City Councilman. How do you today?
I'm doing great. Got to get out to see our young people as usual.
Excellent.
Drive around my district, my city, to see what the needs are, hear from people, and see how we can best suit their needs and get things done.
Well, I saw you a couple weeks ago after the Black Business Bus Tour. and we had a good conversation, and what I told you then was I say you need a platform. You need a platform because the information you provide to the community is great, but how do we get it out to the community? How do people get it? Because a lot of people only see the problems. They never hear of the solutions, and sometimes the solutions are in full effect. But the people who are saying and they only see the problem never ever see or hear the solutions. How do we change that?
Well, normally our social media pages, a lot of people don't have social media. We put those things out there. Going forward, after our conversation, it's always good to hear people's opinion.
Yeah.
And not give offense to what they say.
Right.
But take it in and give it a driving force to move forward. So I talked to my office and some of our strategies, and we want to go forward and start doing some type of newsletter to be able to get those good accomplishments out there and some of those things that we're working on and those not so good things we can talk about as well. You can't be afraid to talk about the negativity because if you don't, how are you going to get them done? You have to be able to hear everybody's ideas to get them done. But collectively, and not attacking people. A lot of times we attack first into getting the facts and understanding the policies, the procedures, and then get the strategy to get what you need done. And that's what I found being on city council. I have to find those facts. Because there's policies I don't agree with.
Right.
But if I want to be able to help my district, my people, I have to figure out how can I strategize to make it work in my favor to get those things done. And that's why I always tell people, sometimes we complain about the disease, but we don't want the cure.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
So
Like the shot.
The jab.
I don't mind taking criticism. It comes with the job, no matter what. But the bottom line is you got to be able to still have a conversation with people. I don't care if somebody don't like me, but I don't like a lot of people, but I still respect them and respect the place.
Right.
I'm still going to speak, still going to wave, whatever.
Right.
We don't have to go and have a beer or a glass of anything, but I still respect you in my respective place, just like me and you. We don't talk politics as friends.
Right.
We don't. We when it comes time to that era, we do that, but we don't mix our friendship with politics.
No. Yeah. And one of the other things too, and I think I heard somebody say that in one of the shows earlier today, is that black folks as a people have so many external forces that work against us, and we are automatically combative, we're automatically defensive, and on top of all the external forces, we have so many internal forces where we're self-destructive people, and I don't say this all the time, but I got a brother who OD'd. Now, I've never done drugs, never been drunk in my entire life, but yet I got a brother, a sibling, who actually overdosed. I mean, that's how he died, And so we got forces working not only within our community, working within our families. So, we are some tough.
I'll give you an example.
We're some tough people.
I'll give you an example. When I was on the campaign trail, and now I talk about empowerment.
Right. There you go.
So you can't have economic development without economic empowerment first, because you have to empower the people.
Right.
When you empower the people, now you get those ideas working, and now we're on one course versus 5 different courses, because now we've got a common goal. And that's why I try to tell our neighborhood associations, which, especially in East Tampa, they're getting that message. They're becoming empowered within themselves to understand what their power can be to get what they need to get done. And that's also important. I've had a lot of shootings in our district, all over the city, but especially in my district. And the neighborhood association, they're complaining. Council, what are we going to do? We know there are people. We don't want to just throw our people in jail, but what are we going to do? And it's like, like Eddie said, we have liquor stores right inside of our community.
Yeah.
Right on the inside. One is right next to a housing complex. In the weekends, it's like a frenzy of people right there. Shootings happen occur, but the neighborhood is saying, we don't want this anymore. We want this change.
Right.
So now I have to find a way of balance to not upset some of those folks, but also make sure the residents are safe in their homes, because they want their place to be like other places now. Their mindset is changing because they want what other communities want now. And they should have that. And they shouldn't have to worry about, well, somebody's going to get upset with me and mad because we don't want that here anymore. We have to change our mindset to do better, to be better, to want that.
So if we stop supplying the vices, is that what you're saying? Because I don't remember West Chase having a lot of liquor stores.
I talked about that at City Council a week ago.
Why
A couple
why
weeks
is
ago.
it that the people that always say systemic racism exists, why does their neighborhood have the little liquor stores out there everywhere, the abortion clinics and all that? And you went to West Chase, it ain't there. Why? I don't know. What's going on?
It's a community.
Well, I was our community. I would say it's people who had money, and if they we know if we go in there, we know we're gonna make money.
Choices.
Those people.
Choices, right.
And those people.
A captive audience, you'd say.
Right, and they've already been oppressed. We're gonna oppress them some more.
Ah.
We're gonna oppress them some more.
Mm.
But we're gonna make money in the process.
So it's a little bit
you
deeper.
So you don't really care about them being oppressed. You just care about you making money. You have all other races that come into our communities and make money, and we don't.
Mm.
But we
So there's a big picture going on.
So I don't like that picture. So I want to kind of repaint that picture to where we have businesses that look like us inside our communities, but we have to make sure that we know the process, not be afraid. It's what I call going places that make you uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go places that make us uncomfortable
But
to be comfortable.
But a lot of places like that are risky for black folks. It's kind of like white folk take calling the police for granted. Black folks, you really need to think about calling 911 and somebody come to your house, because sometimes they come to your house and somebody you love is dead before they leave, even though the situation may not have warranted that, but because of the nature of the situation of the black community.
Yeah.
It's culture as well.
Yes, culture.
It's culture as well. And I talk all the time in the diocese about culture. I told our police chiefs and mayor, I told everybody, culture is key.
Right.
You have to understand culture to be able to get rid of bad things sometimes. If I lived in Avila, I can't pronounce the word, you know what I'm saying?
With
If I
all those
lived-
millionaires and billionaires.
I lived there, and I grew up there, and I never ever interacted with black and brown people.
Right,
Right.
right.
And yet I became a police officer.
Right.
And now I go to 29th and Lake
Yep.
as the policeman.
Right.
And I've been told those people
12:30?
down there are bad off, they're just bad, I don't know what. And my mindset, well, I've heard this, but you don't know the culture of those people there. But so you take a different look, and your mindset is different. So we have to be able to train, when you talk about the police and others, about culture. And we understand that when Hispanics talk sometimes, they talk with their hands.
Mhm.
They're not being aggressive, that's just their culture.
Right. It is.
That's
I don't
the problem
understand.
with
What do you
America.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's the problem with America itself. We have not understood everyone's culture, understand what you may feel is one way. It could be the same thing, it could be different languages. We're speaking the same thing, but you don't know, so you automatically become offensive or afraid. Which is what I call the fear factor a lot of times. We're fearful of those people. You can't be fearful of people, you have to understand the people.
And see, one of the issues and one of the things that I tell folks all the time when they listen is that fear is a natural instinct. Every creature, 1 cell to billions of cells, have a fear instinct. Sometimes it makes no rational sense, but fear is fear. Like when my granddaughter was a baby, you know, puppies, you know, lizards, all kind of stuff be around. And I remember one day I got some flowers, and those flowers scared her so badly she almost jumped out of her mama's arm. Flowers. But see, to a little baby, she didn't know what it was, but that fear thing jumped in, and next thing you know, she was about to, you know, she just had to get away from it. And sometimes these officers, you know, teachers, I mean, whatever profession you're in, you know, it's not so much of a learned instinct as a natural instinct. It's a different thing when you kind of combat natural instincts, because you don't know.
You've been in a fight before, so we got to go on some blows with somebody else, so we never
Right.
experience that. It's a different ballgame to them.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always say, you know, fear has a way of triggering things inside of people.
Yeah, it does. It does. And so we live in a community where when the guys at the police station, and I'm not saying this because Orlando used to be police, I'm saying it's a big difference if you're going to South Tampa, or you're going to West Chase, or if you're going down 22nd and Lake. It put a different pit in your stomach
Reality is reality. You have to tell the truth. It is.
You know, and that's part of our issue. That's part of our problem. Half the world been taught through the media to be afraid of us.
Mm-hmm.
What Orlando said at the beginning of this whole process, you know, Porch Talk Radio, we don't cut. We cut to the chase. You know, that's why we have this kind of conversation. Is that at what point in time that we as a community, black community, East Tampa, West Tampa, taking our own resources and controlling what happens in our community. That's what empowerment is all about. How we control and not creating bad situations, but actually creating good situations that are learnable, multipliable, and making changes within the community that are for the better.
We can't be afraid to work with one another.
Right. Well, we've been taught that over 400
We
years.
have to get out of that thinking.
You know,
We have to get out of that mentality. We have to be able to say, you know, sometimes when you spend money, there's risks when you spend money sometimes.
yeah. Oh yeah.
The risk. I've lost money before on investments or whatever. I can't get mad at that person. It didn't happen at that particular time, but I've been successful in some other ventures. It's just a part of that. And you can't be, well, when we will get paid. Well, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years for that to come in.
Payback.
And we have to learn how to deal with it. Oh yeah, you gotta have patience on that. And again, learning what our assets are in our communities. See, in our community, we have to be able to hold on to our community.
Right.
We let go. And sometimes we let go because people say, well, I don't want to live anymore. So I'm selling. Oh, mama's 90 years old. Well, we're going to sell mama's house. I don't live anymore, so we ain't going to live anymore. So you sell. So then you bring in gentrification. Well, people call it, but sometimes I call it a double-edged sword. Yeah,
White folks
Big
come.
time.
White folks come.
but sometimes we sell
Yeah.
to the white folks, you know,
Yeah.
versus selling to the black folks, or looking at how we can be as some of our maybe our real estate could get together. I'm meeting with them in a couple of weeks to talk some strategies about seeing how we can invest and get some of those homes and educate some of our people not to sell their homes, hold on, to try to find a better way to save what we have of a community, and also understand that we need to obtain property. We need to buy the property. We look at 29, I think I drive by there every Saturday, and I just look at those buildings and say, I've got to get our CRAs to understand
Right.
we've got to buy this stuff.
Yes.
And you know,
we gotta buy, because then we control it if we buy it.
see, and that's something I know Eddie's always tried to tell people, to go to another level in thinking, as opposed to just immediate gratification. Let's go ahead, and Eddie always talks about, you know, if I go fishing one day and I'm fishing in a pond, I don't want to just have that fish. I want to have that pond. I want the land that pond is on, and I want to be able to go fishing when I want to go fishing on my land. And that's a different perspective, and I don't know how you can teach that today to the existing people that we call old heads now, saying, well, no, just get rid of it. We don't care. Get the money and go on. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword. You got to be able to educate from a different level those people. Say, hey, hang on. There's a bigger picture here.
It's hard. It is hard, but we cannot stop.
I'm
the
not
process
giving a
of
pass to the white people going and buying cheap property, because that's all they see
Right,
is
money.
cheap property. And
Money.
say, well, gee, if this house, I can get this house for cheap, and there's 2 or 3
Turn
empty
it
lots
over,
right
turn it
there,
over.
I
Right.
can buy the whole block.
Right. There you go.
and that's why we have to educate.
That's what
and-
they do.
And empower people. A lot of neighborhood associations, they're seeing that, they're understanding that, and they're talking about that. I do have a strategy that I'm going to be talking with some folks about with the administration and our CRA as well. Some things we need to do. My thing is that I see a lot of properties, vacant buildings in East Tampa area that can be used for housing.
Right. Yeah.
That can be, we can take, do land trust, land banking, do some things to be able to obtain those properties. We own them, get some developers to build them, but we own the properties, ours, and then we flip them, the money goes back into the pot,
Right.
and we still keep it moving. You just gotta have people at the table and try to work those strategies out to get things done.
Well, I talked a couple of weeks ago about Chinatowns. Chinatowns all over America. Chinatown, the biggest and the oldest one, San Francisco, was 1800. What they have done, they have literally made it so that they cannot sell their properties to somebody who ain't Chinese. And they've got to the point now to where they're growing into, like in New York, Chinatown is growing into Little Italy. So Little Italy is disappearing at the expense of Chinatown because Chinatown is growing, and Little Italy is not. And that's the nature of the beast. If you won't sell if the black folks decide we're gonna only sell to other black folks, or to black corporations, or black associations, to long as the organization is black, it can stay in black hands for generations. Like 1800 was several hundred years ago, and the Chinese folks still own their same property, still in their family. It's called, heritage. It's literally their heritage that when they're born, their family owns property in Chinatown.
Legacy money.
And they ain't got to worry about where they're gonna stay, because they got land. And as long as they got land, you got a place to stay. And we got a caller. So caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Eddie Allen.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Orlando Gudes.
Joe Roberts.
From West Tampa, the best part of Tampa right now. And a lot of that stuff y'all talking about, we don't say that on the west side. We don't have them issues. People want to come from outside of here saying it, but they don't know nothing. If you ain't been here since 1962, you can't tell me, excuse my expression, a damn thing about West Tampa and black business and nothing else. Having been here single-handedly fighting this for over 67 years.
That's true.
This years of history. Bottom line is, we talk about, my family been in the real estate since the 1950s. Okay? 1950s. And I've been fighting. One of the things that diminished black ownership of land in East, West, Tampa, Evo City, Tampa Heights, Jackson Heights, and Sulphur Springs and all, was systematic code enforcement back when Sandy Freeman wanted to take over and foreclose on $40 million of outstanding liens. Know all about it.
Yeah.
I'm doing a book on it. And I'm going to tell on everybody, okay, about how we got to this and why the black wealth was taken from them in the Hillsborough County, let alone the state of Florida. And I'm getting ready to go to Tampa County and put my foot upside their head to code enforcement. I'm just setting them up for an FBI book. So they use code enforcement to advise you, you got all these codes, you need to sell your property, you need to open up, bust somebody undercover and kind of code enforcement nonsense on the clock out. But getting back to what's happening. West Tampa, read your login seller on 2021, West Tampa. Now, it's geared to Hispanic. They ain't missing nobody black in there, but we know what's going on. And on our CRA Citizen Advisory Committee, they need to emulate it with every other CAC to cut out some of this nonsense and some of this exclusion of neighborhood leadership and get the ball rolling. We don't have that over here. Because when we started out, I told the city, this is what we're going to do. This will work. And this is how it's done. Now, the reason is because I'm an engineer like professionals. Just like you here, Eddie, architect.
Yes, sir.
And you know that PE, it means a big deal. It don't mean physical education. So I'm not bragging on that. They don't need to give me nothing because I already been blessed. And I really sympathize with this because my mother died 6 years ago, this July, and that first year is bad. But as I got older and as I've gotten time, I've been able to heal. And then she left me a lot of real estate, so that helped me too.
I love it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That make it better.
Thank you, Mom. So here's the deal. Is you got to do what you guys are saying. Right now, to try to assemble something with property, it's ridiculous. The prices are going up. I told people 10 years ago, 15 years ago, buy this land. Buy these houses where they're going to sit. Go buy the code enforcement lien property. Go build up down the code house. They're listed. Now you want to come over here and complain that blacks are getting gentrified. You want to complain that we ain't got no business on Main Street. You want to do all this complaining, but you don't own nothing.
Right. That's the problem.
You're not going to get no respect as a citizen taxpayer unless you own real property. There's no million out there made without real property somewhere in the equation. Even Steve Jobs, and you can't take all that money with you. So the thing is, because everybody want to go for themselves, everybody want to be quiet, everybody want to be secret, nobody want to know what's going on in my business. That's the problem. If you want to make some money and make a difference in your community, you got to get involved and sacrifice. I don't get paid over the last 50 years for all this free information. I give everybody, right, Councilman Gudes? All you got to do is call me. Right. I got major people calling me up there, call me up, want to know what to do when they get in a situation. do that across the water on the east side of town, like the west side ain't got no problem. Our problem is getting it done fast enough. Our problem is trying to calm it down a little bit. Our problem is trying to help the people that miss the opportunity get an opportunity. And that ain't easy. But it will happen because I'm not going nowhere. I won't be the chair, but I ain't going nowhere. But I've been all my life. So I'm here to tell people out there listening, you know, and listening, work together, stop all this foolishness. I'm telling you, if some of us don't need none of y'all.
Yeah.
But God Almighty, don't need none of y'all.
Well, Joe.
We do this because it's a love for labor.
Joe,
Yes,
I did a project and they called it Midtown 10 years ago, and it was between Ybor City and downtown Tampa, and we fully developed that property that the city ended up taking. Tampa Park Plaza, all that property, the churches, all that stuff was going to be developed for a baseball park, which got changed and got hijacked. But the problem was consolidating those 28, 30 acres of land would have made it so that black folks could have did the same thing Chinese people did. They could have took that property, mandated what happened on that property, and no matter what happened on that property, always had that property within the bailiwick of the black community. And that was some valuable property because that was the link between Ybor City and downtown.
Right. Let me tell you what Italians do. When we moved here in West Tampa, on the original deed, it said, this is before civil rights, no one of African descent to stay on this street in West Tampa. Nobody. In the deed, and it was legal to do that. On the original plat. No, because my stepdaddy ran the numbers in the mafia, we got the house. It's all about knowing people. See, it ain't all about having this and having that. I can get more done with a phone call than most people do with $1 million.
Right.
Okay? Just a phone call. Because of what was said on the previous show, influence. I ain't bragging, but I paid the price. I done been in jail, out of jail, and shot people and everything else. So I done had to deal with all that. So I know how it goes. But I want to say to the community in West Tampa, we got it going on. We got a chief, thanks to the city, thanks to our chairman up there, Mr. Gudes, leading that effort. Hopefully he can get some shit on the east side. The west side, we got plenty of sense. There's a lot of haters, but I tell haters, you want to hate to come out. And get what they do. Run away like roaches when they get exposed to the light. So, like I say, and plus I got the FBI back in me. That's all I can say, and God Almighty. So what I'm saying is, let's just try to keep it going, keep positive development going, and keep this community moving forward. And I know on the west side, I have it in my heart. I don't get paid for this. I don't even take a dime on none of my property for this. But I do it because it's the right thing to do. And the difference is on this side, we still have los Espanol, and we have our Hispanic brothers that we have to look out for as well as our black culture. So we got them both. It's a little bit different than the east side, but we love that electric mix, and we love our community, and we love the opportunities and to share the cultures and to move forward. Because all this fight that go on elsewhere, I tell you, when you cross that river, you better check in. We ain't having all that over here. You will get destroyed coming over here with nonsense. If you take a line, ask a couple of people that went to federal prison. And that's all I'm going to say, man. And thank you for letting me call in the show. And Councilman Gudes, thank you for your leadership on City Council. And thank you for your leadership about community benefit agreements. And thank you back to the leadership for leading CRA when everybody else don't want to listen to you. And that's all I'm going to say, Eddie. And thank you for the call.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. We got we got another caller. It ain't much commentary we need to add to Joe Robinson.
No, you got it covered.
Because Joe is a black intellectual, and that makes him a dangerous person.
Yes, it is.
Because he not only says it, he knows what he's talking about. Okay, next caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
I'm calling from Tampa. And my question is, speaking of the east side and west side, the Yellow Jackets Little League got moved off prime property. And where it's located is good, but there's so many upgrades that could happen at that Yellow Jacket Little League. Where would the funds come from, or Mr. Gudes or Mr. Robinson, anybody? How can the Yellow Jackets Little League get the upgrades they need from the city?
I think for one, there's capital improvement plans that happened in the budget. Now, I don't know the deal that happened with the Yellow Jackets about 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. I wasn't on council then, but I can tell you, me being a sports fanatic and being with young people, I probably would have raised a lot of stink, and I don't think the previous council really knew what was going on with that. So I'm not gonna bash, because from just hearing some of the stories, I don't think the previous council really knew what was happening with the Little League, because they've been moved a couple of times. They should be back to that complex right now, because I don't think there's any development going on, or any new development that's gonna happen at this particular time that I know of. So they should be back in that spot right there on that prime property where they're at, because that's gonna be a community again. People
Right.
are coming back.
Right, there you go.
And so I plan on asking about that, because I've gotten some calls on that. And I'll probably send something to the Director of Park and probably Chief of Staff in reference to that, because, I'm not too thrilled about where they're at. But on the other hand, since there were no kids, the enrollments were low at the Yellow Jackets, I understand, they put them over at the Clearfield complex over there off of Boulevard. So they can have a place to play, because that's the neighborhood over there with some kids. And so I think their enrollment is about average now. I don't think it's overflowing, but Mr. Wright, as soon as I got on council, I gave him an accommodation for the work he's done to keeping that program together. He's a leader over there. He's legendary. So anything I can do to try to help them out, we're going to try to do. But as far as the right now, I just don't know. I have to inquire to ask. Closed mouth doesn't get fed. So you have to open your mouth up to get fed. So I'll open my mouth to see what's going on with that development, because eventually, like I said, that's going to be a community with a bunch of probably kids when it all happens. And right now, it's sitting over there dormant. It's a nice complex that was given and made for them, and then they were forced out for whatever reason. I don't know, the land sale development, I really don't know. It's something I have to look into.
Thank you. And we appreciate all the callers who are calling in today, because Orlando is like I said when we first started, he's one of the few elected officials, that you can actually talk to, actually got access to. He can't go out and contact everybody in the community who has a problem. But if you in the community and you got a problem, or you got a situation that you need for him or someone else to look at, turn the eye toward, bring to their attention, he's accessible. That's the one thing that I have complained about elected officials in this area, for a long time. They may be accessible to me because I'm a politico and I know how to get in touch with them. I'm not.
You mean rattle their cage?
I'm saying many of them I know where they stay. Push come to shove. If you're persistent, I'm not saying go to his house.
They come to my house. They knock on my door.
Yeah, but the nature of it is communication.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you got communication with your elected leaders, you can make stuff happen. That's, and many times and many issues that are close to your heart, they don't know about. And if you don't tell them, it's no way for them to find out through osmosis. Osmosis don't work like that. Information don't work like that. It be important, and everybody in your neighborhood may know about it, but that may be as far as it goes.
But I still stand firm. We still don't vote. So even though
Right.
we've got these roadblocks, there's a bunch that still don't go to the polls. And until everyone say, well, I'm going to go to the polls, we have to believe we can. And that's the problem. A lot of young people, some of you don't believe things can happen. And when you don't believe, things don't happen. We have to get in the mindset and into our hearts that we believe we can do anything we want to do. I don't care what kind of task I have. I want to believe that I can fulfill that task. If I fail, I fail, but I'm going to get right back up to find a way to make it happen. And we as a people have to find a way to grab my friend, his friend. We're going to the polls today. No, don't tell me you mad about something. And the first question they ask me, when they tell me about something, I say, did you vote?
Right.
Well, I didn't vote. So yes, we have roadblocks,
Right.
but I still contend that if we get up and we go vote, we have fellows that may have some issues, fines or whatever, but even excluding those folks there's still a heavy, big population,
Right.
huge, that
Right.
don't vote, and we gotta make sure that they vote. So I'm gonna expound on a little bit about the code enforcement. I respect your opinion about the voting, but I wanna talk about that code enforcement because that seems to be a big topic about what code enforcement does.
Thank you.
Joe Robinson talked about the earlier days and how some things were done.
Mm-hmm.
I think those days have kind of gone and changed a little bit down. And code enforcement is a tool. Maybe back then it wasn't used, the tool wasn't used in the right mechanism.
Right.
But what I can tell now, when I drive around East Tampa and I see lots with all kind of trash and stuff on it, and you try to contact that owner who's moved out of town, or you can't find that person, not that it's lien, may have any liens on it, it's just an empty lot there with trash on it. Or, who's gonna clean it? You can't find that empty lot, that lot with trash in some other part of town. So now, if the city's gotta go out and clean that lot, cause you saying, Gabriel and Eddie says on the other side, we both getting rats and stuff
Right.
coming into our house. And I got a nice house and I'm trying to fix up, but this middle property here has all kind of vagrants or squatters in this house. So someone has to take care of that house. So someone has to board that place up for you and you, Eddie, because you're the neighbors. You don't want people in that house doing all kind of things. So someone has to do that, and then now you get a lien because now we've had to go put money into boarding that up. So now who pays for that? So now you have to look at both sides of the spectrum. So now Miss Jones might be 90 years old. But I say with some of the, especially in East Tampa with our CRA, I think we have to look at a way, and I'm going to talk to our legal staff, how these people who may be elderly or people who are having problems, that we can help them with those fines and fees to maybe get that done. But a lot of times, people do just want to sell sometimes. And sometimes the city takes advantage of that. Sometimes the developer does. So you have a lot of caveats to it. But what I tell you, when you drive in East Tampa, you see all these dilapidated buildings, all this stuff going on, and people will say, well, we want our neighborhood to look better. You have to have some mixed level of incomes in communities to make them grow and make them better.
Right.
You can't put poverty on top of poverty. You can't say we want to have $60,000 homes. Those days are gone. A piece of property in Tampa, a lot, almost $70,000, $80,000 alone,
Right.
just in the property value. So you're talking about cleaning up a community. The way you're gonna do that is you gotta be able to go in there and clean up some of those lots. And I go back to the CRA and others to buy some of those lots. The city buys them. Now
Right.
we control it now.
Right.
And now we can control now the price of the lot, because it's our lot.
Right.
So I can control, so well, no, we're gonna use it for affordable housing, which is another subject. We can control that lot. Well, we know what the value may be 80, but we say, if we build it, or we get a builder or a contract, whatever, it could be less than that. But look, we don't wanna go way under to where now you start devaluing communities.
The whole community, right.
You start devaluing the communities. Yes, we wanna help everybody, but the main thing of being a property owner, to have generational wealth, is to make money off your existing property. So if I have my home, I want my value of my property to go up, because if I leave it to my kids, I want that value on that property.
Right.
So a lot of people, we're not educated to the property rights, and we're not educated to how the system really works and how it can work for us.
The economics within the community.
And I find, obviously, Councilman, you're coming in with the governmental, the local municipalities' perspective of, okay, if we take it over, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. And I really believe that, for example, you gave talk about the retired lady in her upper years, maybe she can't fix her house up. And I really do believe, and this is just a side note, for the community needs to come together. From, if it's the area churches, they can come in, and a lot of them have dropped the ball on that. If they've got manpower available, they can get people out there on the weekends to help out, clean up, cut the grass, paint the place up, whatever. So it's not just, and I think when you guys
Gabriel,
talk
there's
about.
a young lady by the name of Miss Keela McCaskill.
Mhm.
She deals with a lot of real estate, and she deals with a lot of the professional players to get them homes or whatever. And she's kind of a little foundation now to try to get those dollars to do exactly what you're talking about. Go look at Miss Jones's house. That's why I did a tree grant to cut some of those trees, because trees are expensive to cut in some of these communities.
Oh, yeah.
And so just what you're talking about, that's the concept I want to do, to have people like Ms. McCaskill to come in and help those elderly people.
Right.
Right across from the funeral home, the young lady, her husband had a stroke. So you need a platform to get up.
Ramp.
A ramp. So what she did was, she heard about that. She got a bunch of those players together with her foundation. They built a ramp for this young man.
And that's the community coming together,
Right.
not the, because, and Eddie and I have talked about it several times, whenever the city comes in, sometimes there's other strings attached, and obviously your group that you're heading up right now is as strong as you are there with them. If you go do something else, or one day your number's pulled, then it's whoever shows up next, it might be the opposite.
That's correct.
But when the community does it and is accustomed to doing it, and the kids
That's
grow
it.
up with
That's
the
it.
community,
That's the culture.
getting
That's the
accustomed to doing it
culture.
themselves.
There it is.
Now they're not depending on
Right.
the government to come in, the city
Right.
come
Go
in.
clean your yard, Eddie. We
Right.
this is our block here. We understand.
Right.
You need
That.
some, do you need some help? Help me. We
But
show
now
you.
everybody's offended everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid of everybody. We don't want to upset them.
Right.
You know what? How many
Why you doing all them
conversations?
cars? Fixing all them cars in the
Right.
front of your yard.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like sad that we're gonna show up at John's house and we're gonna help him do the yard and put a coat of paint on the house, make it look better so everybody property stay at current value.
And that's the community
Get
coming
back
together.
to why, and that's
Eddie, when I
everybody.
first got in like that, there's a lady named Mrs. Chisholm. She has a lot of. She's out of the islands. She has a lot of plants, beautiful plants,
Right.
food, fruits, and everything. But the community started saying it's overgrown, looks bad. So what I did was, I went and asked the city and I started team to come out. We're gonna have a Saturday. We're gonna go and help her.
There you go.
We're gonna help her. And in the Church of Scientology, they say we have environmentalists. We want to go out there and help as well. Got a whole team together, help clean her yard, or had a way she can drive her truck in now to get those food measures and take them out to the communities, what she does.
And
So,
how many city dollars are spent on that?
Reverend, hardly any city dollars at all was spent on that.
So that's community. But usually, when you're talking community and you're talking city, you're talking two different
Worlds?
worlds.
Mhm,
Yeah,
they are.
completely. Because churches, local groups, local organizations, we got a bunch of calls. So let's see if we can get a call. When they do stuff, it don't take any outside forces to keep your community strong, and it don't take any outside forces to keep your community clean.
And that's pride now starts to grow inside that community,
And those are two
in that
things that are
culture.
very, very important. All right, caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello.
Hello, how you doing? I am a resident of East Tampa, and I have been listening to this conversation, and I have a couple of things that I need to say. So one of the things is Councilman Gudes talked about land ownership by the CRA, which is great, but the CRA has purchased property once before, many years before, recently, but if you go to the property appraiser's office, none of that land is in the CRA name under East Tampa, so which means the city still controls that land, but the CRA is left for the upkeep and the maintenance of that land. So technically, the city is using the CRA dollars to keep us as sharecroppers. That's one. Another thing, when
I
you
wouldn't
say,
agree with that.
hold on, then you say mixed use of communities, mixed communities, and you say we don't want those other people, or we want other people in here. That's a code word in 2021 for gentrification, Councilman Gudes. Also, too, economic development. I agree with you. We need economic development because I always say, hey, if Javante is going to work at 8 a.m. in the morning, then 8 p.m. at night, he's not robbing nobody's store. So once again, but these jobs, these buildings that's coming over here, and these business that's coming, they don't look like us. And we have constantly said that. So everything that they build over the off of 37th Street, there is no minority component to that. Everything that all of this other stuff that they're building, these houses and all that, there is no minority component to that. So I agree. We need jobs. And let me tell you, so the apprentice program, I know you have that. That's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. It gives people the opportunity to learn a skill, but it doesn't guarantee you a job. The city of Tampa needs to look into a local preference dealing with unemployment issues, because a hopeless people this is what you're going to get. Because when people are hungry, they're going to do what they have to do. Not that I agree, but that's what it is. Because when you put it out there and they're trying to fend or feed for themselves, then this is what you get. Also, too, if I'm a renter and I live in East Tampa, if I'm a homeowner and I live in East Tampa, and I choose not to belong to a neighborhood association, I still have a voice and I still have an opportunity to exert my voice, and my voice should be heard.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
just saying.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're
Thank
going
you.
to treat everybody right, let's do it. And you keep saying there should be a fair balance, then it should be a fair balance. Don't talk about your home association, your neighborhood associations, and then leave the other people out. Because some people may not have the time or the dedication or the will will to join a neighborhood association. And I'm not taking nothing back from neighborhood associations. I think they're great, they're needed, and that's it. But once again, there are many people who are not a part of that process. And if you're going to work with one, you need to work with all.
Well, I totally agree with some of the things you're saying. I look at, we talking about the 37th Street project. I think Ms. Hart, I got several phone calls about that project. That was before my time, but I looked into it. And then I talked to the developer about that project. And I'm going to tell folks, that's a great project. I think Ms. Diane Hart had him on here a week ago because I called her and said, you need to have him on here to explain to the people about that Project 37. That project is going to be geared for the people that live in that community. There's going to be a list on that. I mean, the rent for a one-bedroom apartment is like almost like $400 or $500. A two-bedroom is like maybe $650 to about $800. Then it's going to be a luxury type.
Wow, that's a third of what I'm.
Senior
That's nice.
senior citizen development. As it relates to apprenticeship, I use the analogy of my nephew all the time. He painted my mother's house one time, and I didn't know he was a painter. He did a great job. I had him paint my house. I didn't have him go paint other people's houses. Gave him one of our funeral vans so he could get his equipment. He now paints houses. So he learned from somebody else who gave him an opportunity to learn how to paint.
Right.
So there are opportunities, but when you be in an apprenticeship program, it's giving you the example to become an entrepreneur on your own, because now you've got a skill. If I go to welding school and Mr. Adams tells me, go out there, I'm going to help you in our program here, on our job, now you've got that life skill, so now you can now go and be able to be your own welder and make your own money.
Right.
So it's a balance to that. As far as neighborhood association, you can't go to any other community of affluence or middle class that the neighborhood association, even with renters that are transient people at time in communities, that don't help run that community and make that community empowered and better. That's what the east side of town has to have. You have to have, even with the renters, they're transient at times, but being involved, having a voice is true. Everyone should have a voice. But when you are a property owner, your stake in the game is much more valuable than just a renter who may live for 6 months, say, I'm going to go across town, I'm going to live out in the county, but that homeowner who's been there for decades understands the value of my property. So when I say other, it's not about other, it's about the homeowner versus the renter. There is a tip of the scale a little bit, but sometimes you have renters who've been there a long, long time.
30 years.
But we need,
30-year renters.
and we need those
Yeah.
people to be involved in the process of learning how to be a homeowner or maybe obtain that home they've been in for almost 20 and 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about when we talk about empowering the people. When you empower others, and I can lift my hand up to give Mr. Adams and you to get you where I am at, you'll be like, man, I never knew that. So my thing is making sure communication and educating the East Tampa community, wherever we have marginalized people, to educate them, there is a process. Let me learn and help you find that way to be a better homeowner, a better renter, a better whatever you want to be. Let me get you the information.
And in that process, you get rid of the slumlords
That's what you
that
do.
don't have pride in the place, don't care about the neighbors, and you get people that can get in their face and say, look, you're bringing in trash in here, and we're trying to clean up our neighborhood.
And I've got an ordinance right now, supposed to be coming back with it. Hopefully we can mirror what the county just passed in reference to renters' rights as well.
Right.
We want to protect their rights as well. So I just put that on the table last week. Hopefully the administration will come back and give us the answers on how we can kind of mirror that or some changes to make or whatever. I want to help everybody be a part of the community, but I want to make sure where I live at and where I grew up at, that my community can look like other places and people can have the value of knowing, hey, I live in a decent place too. Just because it's East Tampa, I live in a good place too.
Right.
That's awesome.
All right, and I got it. Let's see if we can get in on this day.
Come on, Ed.
because we're getting close to the
Thank you,
time. So, and thank you, Orlando.
That's awesome.
For coming
Excellent.
on the show today, because we might get tight here toward the end. On this day, May 1st, 1486, Christopher Columbus convinced Queen Isabel to fund an expedition to the West Indies. That's where he thought he was going when he found this new world that everybody's been so happy about.
Wish the boat would have drowned.
Yeah, for the last couple. There were people here when he got here, but anyway, he still gets credit for discovering it. On this day, May 1st, in 1927, Adolf Hitler's, everybody's favorite person, held his first Nazi meeting in Berlin. On this day, May 1st, 1931, the Empire State Building in New York was dedicated and opened. It was 102 stories tall and was the tallest building in the world at that time. On this day, May 1st, 1992, on the third day of the Los Angeles riot resulting in the Rodney King beating, I don't know how many of you guys remember that, Rodney King appeared in public to appeal for calm. He asks, "Can we all get along?" That was that famous saying, and people still remember. And on this day, May 1st, 2011, U.S. President Barack Obama announced that the U.S. soldiers had killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Gabriel.
You know, folks, we've got a lot of great stuff to throw your way real quick. Why is that a handshake can spread the virus, but a fist bump can't? Must be signed, whatever. And social distance applies to everywhere except commercial airlines. How stupid are we? And then somehow sitting in a restaurant with your mask off is safe, but not wearing a mask to the bathroom is dangerous. Oh my goodness, we're stupid. Keep on. Meanwhile, India just started doing their COVID shots. The 1st of March, they started doing their shots, and then the COVID deaths began to spike within 3 days of that. Oops, they got the wrong batch. Sorry. Meanwhile, Stanford study, quietly published recently in the government documents, shows that face masks are absolutely worthless. Going on, the president President Biden is going to ban menthol cigarettes. This grand gesture announced a way to help black Americans, because they're stupid, he says, is an example of the paternalistic relationship liberals have when it comes to help non-white folks. I hope they don't criminalize the secondary market that will spring up now. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel and Joe Behar are lecturing a black man. And of course, these two white liberals wore blackface at one time. They thought it was pretty funny. They're lecturing him on that he doesn't know the difference between racist and systemic racism. Gee, isn't that wild? Two white liberals are trying to explain that, huh? They are the problem, folks. Meanwhile, Pfizer admits
It's 2 o'clock.
up 2 o'clock. We gotta say God bless America.
Gotta go. So thank you for listening. Thank Orlando for being here.
Excellent. Thank you, Orlando.
And until next week, same bat time, same bat station. This is Eddie, Gabriel, and Orlando and Tim saying bye-bye. See you next week.
God bless.